I believe the internal energetics are always going to far outweigh the external. Nothing externally is going to move the needle forward unless you are operating from a place where you truly believe you are the sole creator of your reality.
So you're a successful multimillionaire who's built an amazing business. What would you say is the one thing, if you could pick one thing to give your success credit towards that you've done differently in your life, what would it be?
Oh, it's the mindset, for sure. I always tell people, and I feel like this is such a common misconception that the public has or entrepreneurs have, they accredit a lot of their success to the tangible external action that they take. And while that is important, I think 99% of my success currently is due to this internal abundance mindset that I've cultivated and the new identity. I would say within the past 4 or 5 years that I've cultivated, I would not have been able to attain anything that I currently have without developing that new identity from the inside out, because I believe everything stems from the identity. And something I always tell my students is that you'll never be able to out-manifest who you believe that you are. Yeah. So you can do all the affirmations in the world. You can scream, I am wealthy 1,000 times. But if internally you're still taking action and operating from an identity of lack, the lack is what's going to manifest. That's why a lot of manifestation, I believe what I teach in my programs is that it's identity first. It's self-concept first. I think I've heard you talk about this on IG as well.
Yes.
But that nothing externally is going to move the needle forward unless you are operating from a place where you truly believe you are the sole creator of your reality. It's super important. I believe the internal energetics are always going to far outweigh the external.
Yeah. So tell us about like how you got to this place, because I think the main thing is like being comfortable also receiving from the universe, which people have a hard time to feel value enough in themselves to receive more wealth and money. Yeah. So what's like your background, and when did you get to a place where you feel like you're better at receiving?
Yeah, that is a huge part of it. And that's awesome that you already acknowledge that. I feel like you're so far ahead of the crowd, because a lot of times people try to trace it back to where they went wrong, but it starts with little things like receiving. Can you receive a compliment from someone? Can you receive it when someone says, oh, you look beautiful today? Because I think, I don't know if it was on your social media or kind of in our mutual friend group, but I've heard people say as well, for me, I deflected for many years. People would say, oh, you're successful, or, oh, you've attained this. And I would say, oh, but I worked really, really hard for that. And trust me, I deserve it. I worked my butt off. Or like, I love your shirt. And I would say, oh, it's from the thrift store. Like it's nothing to like write home about. But I think the more you start to develop the identity of the person you want to become, that all starts to flow in naturally. And something I learned as well is we hear a lot of consistent advice on social media in the realm of manifestation to fake it until you make it. And I actually don't agree with that. I think you have to embody the person you desire to become a match energetically, so all of your desires can flow in. But I don't think there's any faking required. When people say, oh, just fake it, because when you shout from the rooftops, I have 7 million in my bank account, when you know your bank account is in overdraft, your conscious mind is not going to believe that. So what's going to move the needle further, faster, and give you more success is to take small embodied action steps every day that the wealthy version of you would take. And some of my students will say like, well, I can't go buy a Lamborghini. I can't buy the Louis Vuitton bag. I don't have the money yet. You don't have to do that, because would the wealthy future version of you that you desire to be, would they take out their card and make irresponsible purchases? Probably not, right? So what you can do today is buy somebody's coffee, do an act of kindness, do a small micro action step that's well within your current budget, because we're not going to deny our current 3D reality. You have to live within the means that you have at the moment. But the more you embody the wealthy version of you that you want to be, the quicker it's going to collapse into matter and you're going to experience it. So you have to ask yourself, does the wealthy version of me donate? Do they give back? Are they kind? Did they invite my cousin to dinner and you cover the tab? Because what goes around comes around, and you stop operating out of lack.
I love that you said that.
I think that's been
I'm
big
so
for
big
me.
on that too.
Yeah.
And I I'm still like that to this day, but I know like a lot of different people think differently, and I'm the type of person that like, I never want to feel, I feel like what you give out, you receive. And also there's this energy of like, I've had people tell me like, oh, well, don't give money to that homeless person. They could, not be doing it for the right reasons or whatever. But obviously I go with my heart. Like if I feel like someone really needs it, like my soul feels it, and I feel called to, like giving to people, you also, you could feel that you're also receiving. It's not just like, it's like so abundant to take care of others and trust the universe. And there's something about like giving to someone else that is also telling your subconscious like, I am someone that's able to be a vessel for more, so I can give back and so forth. But a lot of people don't realize that. They're like penny pinching.
Because these days most of the time people operate from such a place of lack, but they don't even realize it, right? We've been taught as a kid, or like within childhood, something very common is you have to work really, really hard for money. Money doesn't grow on trees. Wealth is not in the cards for us. So then we go throughout our life with this internal programming of lack that we don't even know is there. And then we wake up at 30, 40, 50, and we blink and we look back at our life and we're like, why have we never been able to create the abundance that's been on your heart? Like, a lot of us know we have a big vision or big goals, or we're meant for this big, beautiful life. But no matter how hard we work, how many side jobs we take on, the abundance we desire is not flowing in. And that's because society has it all wrong. They think that the harder you work, the more money will come in. But abundance and hard work do not vibrate at the same frequency. Abundance is a byproduct of the person you become once you can get in there and audit those beliefs and then rewire them. But something I tell my students is that you cannot rewire a program that you don't know is there. A lot of people have no clue what their internal money blueprint or programming around wealth is. So until you uncover that, no amount of chasing, begging, acting out of desperation is going to bring in what you desire until you sit down and you audit your belief system and you take a real good look at where did this come from? And a lot of it's not even our fault, right? Like, we have parents who, unfortunately, they're doing the best they could, but they've passed down generational beliefs of lack onto us, probably because they had no clue either. They got them from their parents and their grandparents, and it really becomes this generational trickle-down effect. But that's the thing. It only takes one person to step in and break that generational curse and understand how their brain is wired and then rewire it towards what they desire. So it's absolutely possible. No matter how long your family or friend group has been living in lack, I promise you, if you believe you can be the one to break that cycle, you can, because it all stems from the internal belief.
100%.
Yeah.
I definitely grew up being told you have to work really hard for money.
Yeah.
So I sacrificed, I feel like, my soul and my health to get success.
Yeah.
And then I realized that that's also a lackful mindset that I have to sacrifice.
Yeah.
For this.
When do you feel like that switched for you and you were able to transition into more ease? Because I find that so interesting.
Yeah. I think that it's weird because I was constantly doing, I dove into law of attraction and spirituality around 20. And then I read all the books, went down all the rabbit holes, did the meditation seminars where I was not speaking to anyone for 10 days. I went deep into myself.
Yeah. When you first uncover it all, it's life-changing. You're like, don't talk to me. I got shit to read. It takes over.
Yeah. And it's so crazy because your soul has to be ready to hear it because there's so many people I've tried to help.
Yeah.
And they just it goes over their head.
They're not ready.
But so that's why I say it too, that just reminded me for anyone listening, if you feel even excited about the information we're talking about, your soul is ready.
Yeah.
So that's an exciting part. But so it does, if you just continue to get up and listen to this information and try to implement it in your life and it's hard, set yourself up for positive mindset each day, and you're not just, some days are going to suck and some days you'll be better at it, so forth. It's a consistent building. But then I got my company from that mentality and then got my success. But then I reverted back into overworking myself because I think I still have that wound.
Yeah.
So it's that's not what attracted my success.
Yeah.
But then I went back into it thinking, to keep it, I need to overwork myself.
Yeah.
And then I went into that for a couple years and realized that I'm burning myself out.
Which is so counterproductive. But society tells us we're in this phase right now, currently, I believe, with mainstream media and popular media like David Goggins. Nothing against him. He's got some great principles, but you wake up at 3 a.m., you hustle, you grind. If you're not wearing every hat in your business, you're a piece of shit. You're not going to get the success. When in reality, I truly believe the abundance comes from rest. And when you're in alignment and you're teaching or sharing your God-given mission and the education that you know you're meant to share with others, and that does not require massive hustle and grind. Yes, we have to take aligned action. I'm not someone who believes that your wildest dreams are just going to flow in. You do have to have a plan in place. But I don't wake up at 3 a.m. I wake up at between 7 to 8. I work right now about 4 to 5 days a week, but it's not crazy 11-hour days. And when I am teaching or doing my classes, it's what I know God has for me to share with the world. So I'm in my zone of genius. So it almost doesn't feel like work when you know it's what you're meant to be doing. So yes, you have to take action, but taking action out of a place of, I love to share this, I'm so excited, versus taking action out of desperation, like, oh, I just have to do this to get the paycheck. Two very different energies.
Yeah, so true. Yeah. And I had a guy that I just met through work, and he was telling me, because he meets with a lot of founders, and he said one of the main things that founders have done that are like very successful to ask themselves what their purpose is to like ask themselves like, what would you do on the weekend without anyone telling you to do it?
Oh, okay.
Like, what do you just randomly see yourself like wanting to do?
Yeah.
And then it's like, what's your interest like without?
Yeah. Without feeling obligated to do it.
Yeah.
I always say, like, what would you do every day if there was no monetary compensation?
Yeah.
And what's crazy is that I would be at dinner talking to my friends and family about rewiring their brain and manifestation. Like, I can't, when you find your passion, you can't shut up about it.
Yeah.
Truly. Because especially when you've seen how it's changed your life. I know for me, even just attaining my first $100,000, I mean, I used to make $1,500 a month working a retail job. So even my first 6 figures without a college degree was like unheard of for me. So once I started realizing that the mindset and the strategy I was putting into place was, quote, working, you just want to tell everyone, because I want my friends to have that success. I want my family to have that success. It's at the point now we go to dinner and they're like, Jordan, no mindset talk today. But when you truly love it, I mean, I would literally do it for free. Seriously.
Same.
Yeah.
I love that. That's how I am in my friend group. I'm like always trying to help everyone. But yeah, it's funny because it's so interesting and it's so fulfilling. And then you see people, I think one lesson I learned too is like certain people don't want to do the work, and some people you could love so much and you want to help them, but I've also had to learn to not try to fix people and to just let them go down their path. And if they don't want to believe they can have more, even though you could tell they're complaining, and they can change it at any time, we just have to kind of...
That's where I've had a little bit of, I would say, resistance come up, because there are a few people in my life that I love so deeply, and they're not on the 100% belief yet that all of this works, and they're very stuck in the current reality. The economy is terrible. Life is so bad. And it's like, what if it's only so bad because you are choosing to observe that it's so bad?
Yeah.
You are the observer, and you can audit your thoughts at any point. I think a lot of people give too much value and emphasis to the external realm, when in reality, we create from the mind. We create from the imagination. You know, that's why people like Bob Proctor say, if you can see it in the mind, you can hold it in your hand. A lot of people, they're just not daydreaming enough. They're not allowing themselves to access the deep emotions, because the brain rewires through repetition and deep emotional intensity. That's it. People think it rewires through shouting a million affirmations, or the viral TikTok mentor that tells you to script something out till your fingers bleed. None of that is actually required. I think social media has a completely incorrect perception and definition of what it means to manifest your reality, which is why, like that buzzword, I'm not sure if you've come across this in your business or life. Sometimes when people first hear that I'm a manifestation and mindset mentor, they kind of roll their eyes, you know, oh, that woo-woo stuff, because it's so heavily misperceived online.
Yes.
I'm not sure what your definition is. I believe manifestation is simply the execution process in which we create our reality. So it's coming to the awareness that who you believe you are, and the programming that's been running unconsciously since childhood, at no fault of your own, has created your reality. So like when someone comes to me and they're like, well, I'd love to manifest a beautiful life, but I've never manifested anything in my life. It's my job to gently guide them into the awareness that yes, they have manifested everything in their life unconsciously, because this programming is running in the background behind your conscious awareness. And at no fault of your own, your subconscious doesn't pipe up every day and tell you you're running a program of lack, right? If it did, wish. Oh my God, we'd all have learned this time and time, like years ago. And they also don't teach any of this in school. Like in my son's in public school. Oh my goodness, don't even get me started. I believe that they're withholding a lot of this information because they don't want us to wake up to how powerful we are, because then they couldn't have mass control over us, right?
Exactly.
So the best thing you can ever do is become awake to the infinite potential that you have. And that belief alone is going to garner so much more success than a trust fund that your uncle left you, or the college degrees, or rich parents. Personally, I believe nothing can come above the internal belief you have in yourself. honestly,
I agree.
because you'll figure out the rest on the way. A lot of people think like people who win the lottery, it's like 90% within a year or two, they lose it all because they don't know how to manage it, right? They don't have the resources. So for a lot of people, they think more money, more problems, or when I get this, I won't know how to manage it. But that's the thing. Once you start to attract it, God's going to bring you the resources, the financial advisor, the people you need. I didn't know how to start a company. I have 7 employees now, had no clue back then who they were going to be. But once I started embodying that future version of Jordan who owned a company and was successful, everything starts to flow in. And a lot of times we think we have to have it all figured out before we start. So it halts people, I believe, from taking that first action towards a life that could be very beautiful because they don't have it all mapped out. Oh my God, I didn't have 99% of my life mapped out. I just knew I wanted a big, abundant life. I was meant for that. And everything, I'm not sure, like on your journey, if, as you've been going throughout the years growing your company, I'm sure the right people and investors and connections, they just come in. But you don't start knowing where that's going to be, who that's going to be. I personally believe that the universe is just going to bring you everything you need along the path.
What do you think about, and I agree with that, what do you think about people that have like tried certain things, maybe dabbled in like believing themselves or putting themselves out there, and like maybe have gotten to a place where like they've had hardships and they no longer like have the belief in themselves and they kind of like given up on their dreams or the world or...
Yeah. Well, first of all, I think some of my potential students will come to me and they'll say, well, I don't have any physical proof that it's possible, right? No one in my family's ever made $1 million, 100,000. No one's ever lost weight. We've been unhealthy for 50 years. So they don't have the physical proof in their immediate realm that it's possible. But the great thing about the brain is that it does not require physical proof to rewire. So if you could allow yourself in the imagination to daydream and feel the emotions of your desire, even without physical proof in the 3D realm, you can call it in. And the great thing about social media now and newspapers and like all this online media is that you can go on Instagram in 2 seconds and find the proof. You can listen to this episode. You can see somebody who went from dead broke, homeless, in jail to multi-millionaire. So the proof is out there if you open your eyes. But again, everything stems from the belief. So if you hold the core belief, I tried this one technique and it did not garner success, therefore I will never be successful. You are telling the universe, you're commanding, I will never be successful. And everything we say, the universe says back to us, your wish is my command. So the people who say the economy is terrible and you can't make any money, we're in a bad recession. If someone says that to me, I genuinely start to think in my head, not in my mind, not up here. I'm living in an abundant reality. That doesn't have shit to do with me because the limitations other people have placed on themselves has nothing to do with you.
Exactly.
Truly.
Yes.
So I think that if whatever you can daydream up in your mind, whether it's $100 million company, never working again, having ultimate time freedom, being healthy, if you believe you can have it and you are worthy of it, I promise mountains will move to bring that into your reality, but not without you starting to cultivate that belief because your outer reality is a reflection of your belief. So if you go 70 years and your core dominant belief is, the economy is terrible. I'm just not meant for wealth. I will never have it. You will never have it. Not because it's not possible for you, but because that is what you believe. So your outer reality must. Our outer reality is always confirming our dominant belief. So you could shout like once or twice a day, I'm a millionaire, I'm a millionaire. But if that's not your dominant core belief, and for 35 years you've been deeply believing I am in lack, the lack is what's going to manifest because it's the dominant, strong pathway.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
What have you noticed this in like like people that are older in life? They've kind of like given up hope. Like for an example, younger people when they're like starting out in their career, they have so much like light in their eyes majority of the times. Like I can do anything or think. It feels like there's so much hope in the future.
Interesting.
And then maybe people have gone through life and like not seen them get the things that they dreamed of. And then they kind of lose hope in their belief.
You know what? Full honesty, I haven't come up against that much in my community. I've actually had a few people recently join my academy in their 60s, and they're excited about rewiring their brain and living in their highest potential until, their time runs out that they have on this earth. So I feel like I'm surrounded by a pretty positive community in general to where I haven't heard. I think it's more so when people are younger, they look back at their childhood and think my parents could never provide, or maybe they grew up and their house went in foreclosure, or their friends and family other friends at school would receive like Christmas gifts and their parents never had that. So I think for me, it's more looking back at those younger years of life and then using what happened to them as proof that an abundant future is not possible. But that's the thing. Just because you experience something prior in that 3D timeline, that has no effect on what you can create for the future, because the future is derived from the mind. Yeah. It's not derived from past experiences. So I would kind of say the opposite.
It's funny because I was just thinking of like my dad, for an example. Like, he's worked really hard his whole life. And he told me that anytime I talk like this to him, he'll be like, I'm done with that. I'm done with like goals. I just want to live like a peaceful life. And you could tell he's kind of like settling now. Yeah. Because he's like, I think he's like, he's failed a lot of times and he's done good for his career over, not being from the US and coming here from Iran and like having nothing when he came here. So he did pretty good for himself. Yeah. I didn't grow up like wealthy. It was like middle class, but like he, had food on the table and so forth. Yeah. But so I feel like now he's kind of like given up, and I've seen that now around like people around him and like more adults. Like, it's hard to like get them even excited about life again. Yeah. So that's the only reason that came up for me.
Yeah. No, we have that in common. My dad's actually a lawyer, and it's funny you say you didn't have a very luxury life, but middle class, because people hear the word lawyer and they think, oh, you grew up rich. Completely false. My dad took the bar exam 5 times before he passed, and he worked as a farmer on the East Coast, baling hay for like $1 an hour just to save up to put himself through law school. So that's another thing on social media. People hear certain things and they just assume, but he worked super hard for his success. We had a very middle class living growing up as well, which I'm very thankful for. But no trust funds, no luxury yachts or anything crazy. All of my success, I truly do believe that I created from the inside out on my own. However, I had amazing parents. To this day, they're my number one supporters, and I'm very thankful for that. And they did their best with me as well, but they definitely did put beliefs and limitations of lack onto me and my siblings at no fault of their own. They were doing the best they could, because I think a lot of times our parents have no clue that their current belief system came from the generations prior. Until you've been led to this work, you have no clue. Like, you don't wake up and go throughout your day out in the physical realm and think, oh, my internal beliefs are creating my reality. Unless you've done a deep dive into desiring to figure out why you are the way you are. So many people have not even been led to this work. They have no clue that their programming is creating their physical reality.
It's crazy. That's why I like, when I see some like people in my life that I care about that are older, I like try so hard to be like, you could still do it. Yeah. Seriously. It's hard to, that was going back to I have been really learning not to try to fix anyone anymore. Yeah. Just the right people are supposed to hear it, and whoever's not, it's like their path and so forth.
Yes. I think too, something I started believing is that when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. So for you, like, whoever's truly meant to hear this specific episode, they're just going to find it. It's going to go into their realm. No begging, no chasing. You don't have to overpost about it. Like, who's ever meant to hear the message will. Same with your other episodes. Like, if you have a certain guest on who resonates with a listener, I divinely believe everything that comes into our awareness at that specific time is just meant to be.
Exactly. I 100% agree.
Yeah.
Okay, I like this question. Why do you think so many people get triggered when you talk about money or wealth?
Good. I actually haven't been asked that one. I think because growing up, a lot of us had that internal programming, as I mentioned before, of negativity around wealth. Wealthy people are greedy. We will never attain wealth. If you do attain wealth, it is selfish. It is greedy. It's something that you should not want to desire. It's been something that's had a very negative lens over it, which to me, I love dismantling that one, because it could not be farther from the truth. Because when you think about it, the people who possess the most wealth in the hands of good people changes the world. I mean, you can donate, you can give back, you can create charities, you can send your kids to college. None of that is possible without monetary wealth. And none of us can deny that. And I think a lot of people associate it too with a negative connotation, especially if they are heavily religious. I believe in God wholeheartedly. I think that's another misconception. People think, like, when you talk about manifestation, you must not be a woman or a man of faith. Personally, I believe in God wholeheartedly, but at the same time, I respect and I acknowledge this beautiful universe that we live in, and I don't ignore the science. I think both can totally coexist. So I think that's another misconception. But yeah, I think a lot of us were probably taught from a young age, if you desire wealth, it is selfish, it is greedy, or it somehow goes against God. But the way I like to rebuttal that is, when I look at my son, would I ever want him to be in lack? No, I would want my son to have the most abundant life ever. I want him to achieve every goal and every dream. So when you think about it, you are God's child. So why would your parent ever want you to live in lack? It says in the Bible, abundance is your God-given birthright. So if you've ever stopped yourself from attaining or desiring wealth because you're thinking that it's upsetting the creator, that could not be further from the truth.
I agree.
So I think people have a negative connotation around it because it's a reflection of those internal beliefs that were ingrained in the brain as a child. So until you sit down and you ask yourself, what was the dominant language around money growing up? Like at the dinner table from kindergarten up until 18 when you graduated high school. Did your dad ever say like, we have to rob Peter to pay Paul, or we don't have 2 nickels to rub together, or don't get your hopes up for that? That's not in the cards for us. It probably was not in the cards for your parents because they dominantly believed it was not in the cards for them. Therefore, they could not create that physical reality. But if you step in and you start to ask yourself, like, the beliefs you've had for 30, 40 years, are these even my own? Where did they come from? And what I like to do is a belief audit. So when a belief comes up, I'll ask myself, does this align with the abundant dream reality that I'm creating? And if not, if it's not a match, you just have to lovingly let it go because you're under no obligation to continue within the belief system of your lineage, honestly. And I think that makes people uncomfortable, feeling like if I attain more success than someone else, they're going to think I'm selfish or I'm greedy or I'm unrelatable. So that I don't know if that's something you've experienced, but I have a very, very supportive circle, so it's not often, but I do kind of hear like the comments here and there, or you kind of just get the vibe that someone's thinking, oh, now that you've attained success, you think you're better than us or you're whatever. When in reality, it's the complete opposite. I cannot wait to like pay off all my family's debt and take them on great vacations and the things I've already been able to do that I don't post online in the realm of giving back. Like, oh my gosh, that makes holding abundance so worth it when you start to realize the good it can do in the world.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
I was going to say my initial thing when I see people get triggered about wealth is it's almost like the same feeling of like when people can't fully understand why they hate something or why they feel negative when someone's expressing their abundance or wealth or have a life that they want. Some people could naturally be like, want to put them down in order to make themselves feel better in that moment because it's painful that maybe they haven't had that or they don't feel like they can have that. So a lot of times they want to like put it down and be like, oh, they're just this to make excuses in their own mind of why they don't have it yet too.
And to make excuses of if they're negative about it and if they tell themselves, oh, that just can't happen for me, that negates the action they would have to take in order to attain that. So they're kind of letting themselves off the hook. Because if I really allowed myself to believe that that was also possible for me, who would I have to become?
Exactly.
What action would I have to take? Oh my God, then I guess I'd have to actually take action towards my dreams. And they don't want to do that.
Yeah. And also like what pains in myself do I have to face, which is scary for people.
What programming will I have to really acknowledge and sit with if I want to have a life like that? But that's the thing, you can. If you just do that one step and you truly uncover what programming has been running and you are confident enough to let it go and literally rewire yourself and become somebody new, like Joe Dispenza says a lot, your personality creates your personal reality. Meaning that if you want a future wealthy, abundant timeline that you've never had before, it would make perfect sense that you'd have to literally become somebody new. And a lot of people are so attached to their current identity. They're attached to their friend group, they're attached to complaining, they're attached to negativity, and they know that to get to that next level, they would have to let all that go. And a lot of people don't want to let go of Netflix and screaming that the economy is terrible and the negativity because they're so comfortable. But in reality, if they knew that by letting that go, the life that they could have would blow their minds. I mean, it is so beyond worth it.
I love that whole quote you just said. Like everything you just said was so impactful.
Yeah. So true.
I came to a place now, like more recently, where I was starting to feel like I can tell that I've outgrown my current life and I've manifested my dream life. Like I used to visualize a house like this all the time.
Yeah.
And it took me a while to get here, so it wasn't overnight. But I got a lot of the things that I was like dreaming of. But now I've been here for like 7-8 years. I've had money now. I think 7 years I've had money now and success. And now I'm like, okay, I'm ready for the next chapter. And it's crazy because a lot of people don't talk about what that feels like. But it's like, so you can see someone with everything, but it's like we're always going to want more. And so no matter what place you're in, the feeling of you're ready for the next chapter, it's like everything around you starts to not feel exciting anymore.
And that's a sign that your consciousness is evolving, that you're going to the next level, that you're quantum leaping, because I'm sure the version of you were 8 years ago would die to have this life. I mean, you've made a beautiful life for yourself, which you should be so proud of. And then I think once everything starts feeling I don't know, do you follow the teachings of Neville Goddard? A little bit?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. He was one of the greats, passed away, but he states that you can only ever manifest into your life what feels neutral and natural. So when you think about it, when you're first manifesting like a big monetary possession, like we both have our dream cars, I know at one point for me, well before I got the car, it was up on a pedestal in my mind.
Yes.
And I would see it driving by on the freeway and think, oh, I could never have that. Looking back, that's why I never had that, because I believed, oh, that's just for a rich girl as she sped by, right? But as I cultivated this new identity of abundance and believing that I can have anything over the past few years, I mean, now my G-Wagon's outside. But the most beautiful thing, I'm curious to know if you felt this way, is when I recently purchased a new home and car. When I purchased them both on those exact days, I was excited and I was super grateful, but it felt so natural. I literally just felt like, but of course, it's a natural next step because I became an energetic match. Now, that's not to say, of course, I'm immensely grateful. I mean, when I had my son, I had nothing. I had $100,000 of debt, no college degree. I don't know if you know, but my son was born at 1 pound. Yeah, he was a micro preemie. They told us he wasn't going to make it. He's a complete miracle. So we lived in the NICU for 5 months. I had to quit my jobs and live at the hospital and just pray that he would make it through every night. Kind of a longer story, but I say that to say when I had him, I had nothing. I was leaving the hospital a broke single mom making $1,500 a month with a new $100,000 medical bill of debt. I had like a 450 credit score. So I don't mean to say, oh, I have a G-Wagon and it's just nothing. Oh my God, I'm so grateful beyond words for the life I have now. But I am very proud of the fact that in recent years, the things that I have attracted, I knew they were coming and I knew that they were the next like natural step for me. Like when I bought my house, I just knew that my offer was going to be accepted and I was going to be the first accepted offer, and I could see my son and I living there. And I think once you've done the internal work, it's really beautiful to not only set your intention on something, but when it comes in, just really feel like it wasn't a stretch or you weren't desperate for it, or it just naturally came in because you have become such a match from the inside out for it. And it's a really beautiful feeling to not have to beg for something or chase after it. Because I've done both. I've totally manifested wrong in my past. Oh my God, in relationships, I would act out of that energy of desperation. And this applies to material items as well. The more you are chasing, desperate after it, the more it doesn't want anything to do with you, right? But once you get to the place of, it'd be cool to have it. Like with I had a beautiful Mercedes before my G-Wagon, very grateful, did not need an upgrade, but I just thought it'd be nice to have a G-Wagon one day. It'd be great. It's my dream car. It's gorgeous. And then when it came in, I was just like, oh yeah, okay, this is just who I am now.
Exactly.
And it's really nice feeling.
I'm so that way.
Yeah.
I love that you said that too, because it's like a training a muscle, because sometimes we don't realize it until you do the work and you get more comfortable with facing your emotions and pains that come up, and like knowing the difference between a lackful fear thought and a more abundant thought and a more free thought. Because like you said, when you're attached to something, it's more lackful, limitation, or when you feel free, like, oh, that could happen, and you're more allowing and you're more not attached, it's a more abundant thought. But so anytime I want anything now, I have to like get myself to not care about it that much.
Okay.
So that has worked for me. Like for an example, when I started like 15 different companies and failed at like all of them. I started like so many different LLCs and social media, tried so many things before I got my company. Yeah. And it's crazy because before that I was like, I'm never going to work for someone else. Like I just know I'm supposed to be a business owner. I saw it in my heart since I was young. And so I like was refusing to allow myself to go get like a job. Yeah. And it was this guy that I was dating at the time. He's like, what if you just went and got a job? And I was like, oh, no. Yeah. And I was like struggling around
You're like, rebuke it.
Yeah, I was like, get out of me. Get away. You don't understand. It's about how you think and what you believe. I will have it one day. Yeah. So I was like, but I didn't realize all that I was repelling it. And so then finally when he was like, but let's just give me a second. Let's just walk down like the path of what could be good about you getting a job? Like, what would that make you feel like every day? And like having consistent money, how would you feel? Would that make you feel better and more abundant to align with more money? And we kind of like played around with the idea to like decrease how much I was not wanting to get a normal job and that I wanted it to be my company. Yeah. And then doing that exercise and being open to getting a job. Right after that, that's when my company blew up.
Crazy. It's really like, when you let go. It's when you remove, and what's crazy is like if you research the law of detachment, probably. Yes. So people think when I tell them about that, well, I can't let go of wanting my desire because then I'm going to tell the universe I don't want it anymore. They're so attached to it in the material realm that they feel like when they start to say, well, I don't really care about it, it's just going to go away forever.
Yeah.
In reality, it's the opposite. You can still want your desire, and you should. You should set your intention on what you desire and what you desire to come in to make a beautiful life for you and your family. But removing the piece of absolute desperation and being okay with or without it, that is when, like you said, it's just going to flow in. You don't even have to do anything externally, tangibly. When you can allow that piece of begging and chasing and desperation to go, because you already know that with or without it, you are abundant. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing. Some people will tell me, like, I'm not sure if this has been common in your community, but my students will tell me, oh, I can't feel abundant because no one in my family's ever had money, right? They've never made $1 million. They've never made 100,000. Everyone just says, oh, embody abundance, but I've never had it, so I cannot. And what I tell them is that if you're waiting for $1 million or 100K, whatever, to hit your bank account to feel abundant, you're going to be waiting forever. Mm-hmm. You have to tap into the abundance you already have. And they're like, okay, well, what is that? I'm like, okay, do you have one best friend? Do you have one pet that you love? And they're like, yes. And I'm like, you're already abundant in companionship, in friendship. If you're listening to this episode, you're abundant enough to have the monetary resources to pay for internet access, to listen to this episode. So many times we get so caught up thinking abundance is only money. Or if I'm not a millionaire yet, I cannot feel abundant. And you're blocking your own abundance by believing you can't access it now. Yes, so even this, like, we're abundant in a new friendship, companionship, an awesome teammate, the little cat. Like, yes. People already have, if you have a roof over your head and internet access to even come across you and I, you are 99% more abundant than the rest of the world.
That's so true. I love that.
Yeah.
And also, it's the comparing, because then they can also look at abundance as, well, I'm not abundant because I'm looking at that one person that is constantly shopping at designer stores and is like traveling the world. And it's like, I'm lackful now, because it's like also the comparing, which doesn't help with social media all the time if you're in that place. Mm-mm. So like you said, I love that you're like, okay, you kind of have to like remove yourself and look back at like what things are good. Like, how much more like lucky am I than there's so many people that don't have, a home and a roof over their head.
And we think it's so normal. Like, we're in California, right? We're in LA. It's so normalized here to have the nice cars, the money, everything. 99% of the world does not live like this. Yes. I guarantee you have so much more than a majority of people. And in this current moment, everything you're experiencing externally is a reflection of your level of consciousness. So you actually have everything you need right now. And what you're going to need tomorrow is going to flow in. What you end up needing in a year is going to flow in based upon the evolution of your consciousness. Mm-hmm. So your consciousness might not elevate as quickly as Layla Hormozi, who runs a company with 200 people and they're making multi-millions every hour. But you should not be comparing your journey and your life path. Like, I believe we all have a soul contract. Mm-hmm. It's different from other people's for a reason, because your soul came here to evolve and make relationships and have a business, not have a business. I don't personally believe everybody is destined for entrepreneurship either. I think there are a lot of people who make up the team outside of entrepreneurs that we need. And there are incredible like 9-to-5 jobs that are so needed and that people are passionate about. I don't think you can just look at social media and think, oh, since I'm not Mr. Beast, I don't have anything. Yes. I think the comparison game, I go back and forth because I'm so grateful to social media because it's how I've grown my community. I'm sure you love your community as well. So there's so many positives, but as time goes on with so many things, the comparison, the photo editing, I think there are a lot of negatives. Like, my son is 13. He has a phone, no social media. Wow. I will not let, the other day he was like, he's like, what's Snapchat? Our neighbor has it. I said, immediately no. But I let him like text us and have his location for my boyfriend and I, but I fully believe in like no Instagram for him until he's older, because it can be very mentally, even at our age, it can be mentally damaging. I mean, we're in like a massive mental health crisis, and I believe a lot of it has to do with social media.
Yeah. That's crazy. Yeah, we didn't grow up with all that to worry about.
No, definitely not.
What does becoming wealthy in this lifetime truly mean to you?
So I think my definition has evolved over time for sure. I think when I was younger, I would see the generic, wealthy family and think if I had the money and the cars and the vacations, that would mean that I'm wealthy. But I actually heard someone else say this, I can't remember who, the other day on a podcast, and they said achieving total wealth is having total freedom in your life and total peace in your life. So if we're being fully transparent, because I think providing your audience honesty is just going to give them the most value. I don't think I'm quite there yet. I think I'm on the way there, and I think I've achieved a lot of beautiful things. Do I have 100% peace and regulation every day? Not quite yet. I have some things coming up in business that I'm doing, which required me to hire more people and put up a lot of money up front. I'm currently in like a very busy season, which I'm so thankful for, because it's crazy. Like, you get to these busy seasons and you go to bed at night and you're like, oh, I'm overwhelmed. But like, the version of me 10 years ago would pray to get here. She'd be like, oh my God, we have clients, we have a wait list, you're doing an event. What? Like, people are learning from you. This is crazy. So I think a lot of times too, taking a pause and realizing that a lot of times we are where the prior version of us couldn't even believe that we've gotten to, which is great. But yeah, I think it goes in waves, and I think every timeline of every season of your life requires a different version of you. How
often do you celebrate your wins? I'm just curious.
Oh my gosh, you're hitting me with so many good questions today that I haven't heard phrased in this way. You know, I think at the beginning I did more. I think when it was something I had never tangibly accomplished, the first 100K, the first million, it was like, oh my God, crazy. I was able to give some money to some family members last year, which I felt really proud about. I think once you get to the component of not only getting your own things, but giving back, helping family, I think that internally that fulfills more than anything. Knowing that my son's college is taken care of. We just got a house where it's a very safe, beautiful neighborhood. So I know he's going to have good friends, good education. I think that far outweighs the G-Wagon and like the fun things in life. I have something big coming up for work, which is an in-person event. And I think it's been so much work, and I've been so hard on myself because I just want it to be amazing. I want it to change people's lives. So when that is over, that was actually a really good reminder. I want to pause when that's over and just say, you created this, you did this, and you did a good job. Because I think as an entrepreneur, you can just be on to, like, is your brain always on to the next?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's why I've been really trying to remind myself lately, because it's going to be 3 years that my podcast is here. And I didn't celebrate the 1 year. I didn't celebrate the 2 year.
Girl, you have to.
I saw that it's coming up in the next couple of weeks, and I'm like, I really should celebrate that.
You got to have like a party, everything.
Yeah, I'm like, the feeling of, even just for the feeling of, because I want more. So sometimes you're like, well, I'm not going to celebrate it because I'm not where I fully want to be yet. But then it's like, no, I should even be celebrating that I showed up every week for the last 3 years.
Because you've done what, hundreds of episodes?
Yeah.
Oh my God, you have to celebrate that. You have to. Because so many people have something to say, education to share. They never turn on the mic. They never hire out help. They never get to episode 1. Yes. And if you're at like 200, that's a huge accomplishment.
Yeah.
You got to celebrate.
Like, even just showing up consistently doing something should be celebrated.
Oh yeah.
It was a good reminder for me. I'm like, yeah. And that's an abundant frequency. We forget to like play and have fun and enjoy the milestones.
Yeah.
Because that attracts so much more.
So much. Did you know when you're actually in, I'm sure you already know this because your consciousness is so elevated, but when you're in the frequency of dancing, laughing, singing, play, that is actually when more comes in. Like if you've ever tried to like beg or chase after a sale and you're doing all these things and like tangible things on the computer, and then you just go have like a fun day at the beach and you open up your phone on the way home and you're like, oh, 7 sales flew in. Why is that? Because you were within the vibration of who you're meant to be, which is joyful, loving, kind, having fun. I think like we've lost the plot in that, in this whole like hustle culture. And some of it is needed because you do have to take action. I just personally, I'll just never be one of those people who believes you have to take crazy, rigid action out of desperation. I don't want to live like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think it's also like what you're saying is so true. And we also don't give ourselves permission to enjoy our lives because we're like, well, I still want more. And so, but then we forget that the whole purpose is like the whole life is happening right now.
Yeah.
We only have right now.
Absolutely.
And it's hard to like, I think when I was like being more enjoyment, sometimes like guilt would come up. Well, I should be doing this or I should be doing this. So I can see that being
That's another belief that we have to dismantle. Growing up believing if you're not productive 24/7, you don't deserve anything. You don't deserve time off, a minute off. When in reality, like this has been proven scientifically as well with a lot of health studies. You need rest. You have to rejuvenate and take that time for yourself, for your mental health. Otherwise, you will burn out.
Yes.
For sure. I've had phases in my business where I've been very burnt out. And it wasn't even the phases in which I made the most money. It was almost like the burnout was for nothing. Like you're just on this hamster wheel. But people think it's counterproductive. But when you take a moment back to breathe and rest, that's when your next idea comes in or your next sale comes in or like the evolution starts to flow in. I think when you're in rest.
Yes, I agree. And then also play, like you said, it's like having that feeling of play and enjoyment, that heightened frequency. I've also heard like when you're in your dream life, you're also going to be a match to happiness, joy, peace, like these feelings. So I've heard that with Abraham Hicks a lot. I don't know if you've listened to her.
Oh, I love her.
Yeah, she's the best. So she always talks about like your dream world is in the same energy field as you feeling joy now.
Yeah.
And like that's your alignment. You think, what are you going to feel when you have that thing?
Yeah.
Joy, play, peace. So like how do you bring that into your life now? And we forget that.
It's because we keep waiting. So many people delay how they want to feel because they only think they can feel it once the monetary possession or the success comes in. But okay, say you're making $100,000 a month and your desire is to make $1 million a month. How does the $1 million version of you operate every day? Does she go to the gym? Does she take a mental break for herself, get a massage? Does she value her health? Does she like make a schedule for herself in business and prioritize what's important? Why aren't you doing all of that now? If you did all of that now, you'd become an energetic match and you would call that version of her in 10 times quicker. But you think that you have to wait until that million comes in to act that way when it's completely reversed.
That's
you have
so
to
true.
be it before you can see it. And everything is, I think society teaches us that it's the opposite, that you have to like see the Lamborghini in your driveway to know that it's real. When in reality, how does a Lamborghini even get there? It's because you first dreamed it up in the mind.
Exactly.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many times in my prior car, I know it sounds funny, but so I had a different car before the G-Wagon. And when I saw the G-Wagon like driving by me in my city, I would start to look at it and say, oh, that's just my assistant driving my car. She's going to get it washed for me. Like it'll be back tonight. So I would train the brain to believe I already had it and it was on the way into my physical realm. Because before that, I would say, oh, that must just be like a spoiled rich girl. I'll never have that. Like that's off the cards for people like me. So I never got it because I was blocking it for myself. But once you start to normalize it to the brain, even if it's not tangibly in your reality at the current moment, but you allow yourself to daydream, what would that be like? I wonder what it's like to drive that car. Or maybe even just go to the dealership and walk around and smell the car and get in the frequency of what you desire. That's why I think like this being in person, live events, I think nothing will get you to your goal faster than being in the energetic frequency of someone who has it. If you have a friend who has your dream car, ask her to take a picture in there, open it, sit in there, close your eyes, imagine yourself driving it. The closer you can get energetically to the frequency of what you desire, you're going to call it in faster.
I love that too, because I love hanging out around people that have like abundant mindsets because it does rub off on you so 100%. Much. I got like my most triggers that came up for my healing around abundance was with this an ex-boyfriend that I dated. His dad was like a billionaire. So he was like a trust fund kid. And so he was like spending money he had no attachment to it. And I was like, like he would buy something. But then it was like so good because I kept having like these lackful like feelings come up where I'm like, okay, why does that make me so uncomfortable that he's doing that or he's spending money like that? Or like he'd go to like a designer store, buy stuff and then like leave in his house and it'd be in the box like 3 weeks later. I'm like, you still never
you're like, hello?
I can't believe it.
But that's where your growth is going to happen. The fact that the fact that you're already elevated enough to step back and say, why is this triggering me? What must this be a reflection of? What do I need to work through? And it's also cool to like be out with someone who's in a totally different tax bracket and see how they just almost don't care. And for your mind to be like, wow, there is a place in life I could get to. There's already people existing like this to where they spend money and they just have the full confidence that it's coming back. Or to them, $100,000 or $1 million is nothing. And then instead of that's not possible for me, start to ask yourself, what would it be like if I had that mindset? Exactly. I can't wait to have that. That's going to be so fun. How can I make that happen for me? And you start to question things. Your brain is always going to look for the answers to the questions that you ask it, which is confirmation bias, which is that your brain is always seeking out the evidence to prove your claims true. So recently, instead of doing affirmations, a lot of time I do ask-formations. Instead of my company is making 10 million this year, I would say, what would I have to do to make 10 million this year? Who do I need to meet? What employee needs to flow into my life to make 10 million this year? And then without me even doing anything throughout the day, the wheels in my brain, the neural pathways in my brain are working to bring me that next employee, to bring me that next connection to hit that 10 million. Because your brain always wants to complete the loop, right? So if you ask it a question at the beginning of the day, wouldn't it be so nice if I blank? Or wouldn't it be cool if this happened to me? All day, your brain is going to try to construct a physical reality to make that happen.
I love that. You've already, and it's funny because I want to get to that next level for myself, like financially. And I've heard 1 million times to make Like, what would that version of you do?
Yeah.
But it just shows that, like, when you're ready to hear it and it resonates, then that's when you do it. So for anyone listening, I just wanted to mention that again of, like, if that part was like, you want to get to the next level of your success.
Yeah.
If it feels like exciting for a moment, then use that as the motivation to actually go get a journal out, sit down and say, okay, what does my Monday look like? What does my Tuesday look like? Because I have so many things going on all the time.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's hard to prioritize depending on what type of worker you are. Because I've also realized, like, everyone works differently, and you kind of have to figure out what your, like, flow is and where's your version of, like, achieving. Because some people are like, they can just sit down and, like, learn by themselves and do things, like, completely, like, they're very book smart. And
Are you type A or B?
I would say, like, I don't know. But it's like I have versions of both.
Okay.
So I don't know what
Depending on the situation?
Yes.
Okay.
Because I'm definitely, like, I work with my feeling
very
more
emotional.
than
Okay, so you're in your feminine a lot, probably.
Yes. But then I also am, like, kind of, I've been having to learn to get more in my feminine. So it's weird. I've definitely have a lot of masculine energy that I've been working to get more out of. I think now that I'm thinking about it, I think I did get out of it more. That was when I was, like, burning out.
More hustle.
In my masculine. And now I'm kind of like, I go with, like, what I feel I should work on today, inspired action.
Yeah.
But like you said, sometimes I can get distracted because I have so much going on to be like, I need to make myself go to the gym today.
Yeah.
Or, like,
well, I'm curious. You mentioned, like, the next version of you that you want to be. Say, like, if you could see the version of you today, if you could have a chat with her who's made her next 10 million, what is a characteristic of her or of her daily routine that you're not doing now, or that you're stopping yourself from doing because you think you can only access that once that happens? Like, give me, like, one characteristic of, like, the dream version of you in 5 years that you want to be, because I guarantee you can access it now.
Exactly. I think for me, what's come up for me a lot lately is I failed in school a lot, so I got held back when I was younger.
I'm like, were we separated at birth? I got bad grades. I feel like all people who got bad grades are entrepreneurs now.
Yeah. So I was not, like, taught. Don't learn like most students did.
Yeah.
So it always made me feel like I wasn't good enough, smart enough, so forth. But then I figured out my path and what I'm good at. But now I think to get to the next level, I need to go back to be a student. And I think that is bringing up
Interesting.
PTSD in me from school.
Okay.
So I have to learn from the bottom on certain things that I feel like, ugh, I don't want to be a student again.
Yeah.
And I think that is coming up for me. But I think the more work you do on yourself, you can see your things that you need to, like, overcome. So I'll do a lot of self-reflection constantly. So the version of me that's making the next level of abundance that I want to achieve is okay with learning and being a student.
Okay. That's something my dad taught me, is always remain teachable. No matter how much success you have, like, personally for me, I believe I'm the best at what I do for the current level that I'm at, right? But someone who's made 20 million, of course I'm not, quote, better or more educated than them. I think keeping your ears open and being willing to learn from what's worked from others. I think the quickest way to your success is find a mentor or find somebody who's doing what you want to do times 5 and learn everything you can learn.
Yeah.
Because there's going to be people, quote, under you who come to learn from you. You're a part of the food chain. But if you can always remain teachable, I think that we're going to be a student of life until we ascend on. Like, there's always more to learn.
I think my thing was, like, I love talking about this stuff. I always like taking on information and the things I enjoy.
Yeah.
But there's certain things that I'm like, I don't just want to dive in. Like learning AI, for an example. That's one of my things.
Okay.
I'm not naturally, like, obsessed with talking about AI.
Yeah, me either.
But at the same time, like, I see so many areas in my business that it would take me to the next level.
Yeah.
So that's, like, an example of, like, I have to be a student again and learn something that I don't really get super excited about. I have to, like, I'm excited about the vision it would create, but I'm not excited about the work.
Right.
So I have to be a student in something what I'm, like, a beginner at.
And maybe you can tap into your feminine and, like, delegate that task out, or, like, still have it a part of your business and use it to evolve, but not necessarily to say you would have to put 100% of your energy into it, you know. But there are certain things, I believe, even if you've manifested success and the best life ever, that you're just going to have to do. There's those check mark things that are not fun in the business that we all have to do to move the needle forward. But I think think if you can spend majority of your time in your passion and delegate the rest out, I think that's important.
Yeah. So that's why it's funny because me and my sister are so similar, and like it's the more we've worked on ourselves, the more our souls are all in the same like lessons at the same time. Whereas before we were complete opposites. Like we were always a mirror to each other. Like she was more shy growing up. I was more outgoing. Like she had very few friends and really valued like one best friend. I had way more friends. And like, so we've kind of like now came to similarities where it's like, I now see the beauty in like, you know, those core friends. And like she now sees the beauty in making more friends. So we kind of like have the balance now. We've balanced out. And now we keep seeing each other recently. We're like, that's so weird. I'm going through that. I'm going through that. At the same time now we're going through things that are similar. But we're both in the phase of having to push ourselves to learn something that makes us feel uncomfortable.
Yeah. I think that's great for anyone listening too. Like always remaining a student and keeping your mindset open to learn, because there's so much we can learn. Oh my gosh, it's crazy.
Yeah. And I think that, creating wealth is being okay with getting yourself uncomfortable again.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You don't manifest anything out of thin air. There's going to be work involved. There's going to be those action steps you have to take. I do believe it's going to be a better route for you to take them in alignment with, like you said, everyone works differently. Like I'm very type B. I have 1,000 tabs open in my brain at all times. I delegate the other stuff out to my EA and my team. So I think figuring out and being honest with yourself about who you are, how you operate. Like you said, you're currently in a phase in life where you're more in your feminine, and that's probably more, if I could guess, play, joy, right? Music, laughter, all of that, and then delegating the rest out. But yeah, I don't believe that for me, and the proof I've seen in my life, your manifestations are not going to drop in from the sky. It comes from the internal belief, and then you do have to take aligned action.
And then I think this is even more deeper onto what I'm trying to say too, because I'm curious what you think about this. But it's like, I'm naturally good at connecting with people and networking and social media and like what I've been doing. That's what I've been doing for years. I feel so comfortable with it. I can continue to do that without even thinking about it. But it's like getting uncomfortable with not being good at something, but still doing it
being
anyways.
A beginner. But
is an uncomfortable feeling.
Yeah. But to kind of rebuttal that too, in like a super nice way, you're very good at being social because you believe you're good at being social, right? So what if you just went in there and started to rewire the belief, I'm going to be great at AI. Everything I learned, my brain's going to retain, and you were starting to retrain your brain, even if it was something you like disliked or wanted to like push off, but you know you have to get it done for your business. Why not just try a little experiment and start to tell yourself, everything that I learned, my brain is easily going to retain. I'll delegate out what I need to, and just kind of let go the negative piece of it if you know you have to do it anyways. And start to tell yourself, I am great at this. I might not have learned it before, but now's the time. I'm smart, I'm resourceful. Like you're incredibly educated. You got this.
Yeah.
You know, like as you start to learn about it, even if it's not your favorite topic, you can train the brain to be anything.
And I think what is coming up for me, which I'm very aware of, is like we do this healing, we do the work, we get to certain levels in our lives, and we push past those limiting beliefs or experiences that put this type of belief onto you. So it's like getting held back, being told I'm not smart, and then trying and failing in school. Even when I tried, I failed.
Yeah.
Put that a core wound came up again of like,
yeah, for sure.
But you've tried before, Tara, and you failed in school when I was little.
Right.
So like then it's like at every step of the journey in life, some things are going to come back up, and you're going to have to like look at them again and be like, I remember you, but this time, like you said.
But if you actually think about it, like if you look back at the past and you failed on all those things, I mean, look at this. Look at where you are.
Exactly.
Like even though those things happened, you did make it. You've made it through every hard day, every negative mindset, every failure on a test. You made it here. People would die to be in this spot, you know? So I think for people like us who are always on to the next thing, like you mentioned like an hour ago, taking a pause to be so proud of where you are and normalizing that failure is a part of the process. If you start to learn something new and you fail on it, who cares? We're just going to try again tomorrow. Like it's not the end of our story. Yeah.
And when you get uncomfortable, that's where you have the biggest transformation in your life.
100%.
And it's scary.
I know for me, everything about 2 years ago. So I've been teaching my online education for, a decade. But about 2 years ago, I started doing keynote speeches around the country on manifestation, the science behind manifestation, rewiring your brain. And even for my first few speeches, no, even though I had been teaching it online for so long and I know it back and front, I found myself a little nervous. And I was like, oh my God, this is just something new. It was a new timeline, something I was nervous about. But I trained my brain to believe that these nerves just mean I'm excited and I'm about to make a big impact. And as you mentioned, something that I just hadn't done before. Even though I had done it online for so long, being on a stage in front of 600 people, I had not completed that yet. But everything great was on the other side of those speeches. It got me a lot more success, new connections, so much confidence. So I think when you are starting something, quote, new, and you're afraid to fail, you're going to learn lessons. You're going to evolve as a person. Your soul's going to evolve. Everything great is always on the other side of the thing that you're a little nervous to do. But if you even have a gut inkling that I might do it, should I? That right there is already your confirmation that your next level is on the other side of it.
Yeah, that's so true. Is there anything that you feel like that is something you're like going through currently that you've maybe changed your perspective on, or you're looking from a different lens on in your life?
I think recently I have a lot, I would say within the past like 3-4 years, I have a lot more empathy towards people. I think growing up, there were certain people in my life, which looking back now, because I've done the internal work, back then I was upset. Certain people growing up, I felt very judged, very misunderstood. But now I realize those people were a reflection of something internally that I still needed to grow through and learn through. I've had some difficult times with some family members, being frustrated. Why is this person in my life? Why are they treating me like this? When in reality, my soul had a contract with that individual to come into my timeline, to heal me, to grow me, to teach me things. And I think a lot of times as well, we can be upset with like our parents for the upbringing that we had, or for beliefs and limitations they put onto us. But then growing up, realizing that the reality they created for themselves was a reflection of their programming that their parents and grandparents put onto them, probably at no fault of their own, without their conscious awareness. They didn't even know it was happening. So I think when you can look back at your childhood and say, you know what, unless there was, of course, like insane abuse and like other things involved, like dangerous things, but I think having the lens of everyone is just walking their own path. We're all here for a different journey, for a different soul mission, soul evolution, and having kindness and compassion, even when other people don't agree with your decisions. Like this past year, I bought a new house, and a lot of people told me, even some family members, you know, we're excited for you. You should definitely get a new house, but just don't get the pool. The one thing my son wanted was a pool. He's a water boy. He loves to swim. And I set my intention on buying a pool home. And I had multiple people tell me, you're in California. It's going to be well over $1 million. There's going to be pool maintenance costs. You know, sure, get a new house, but just take the pool off the list. And I felt so sad at certain points of my home buying journey because I felt like they weren't supporting me. And I had to remind myself, their internal belief that a pool would be too much for them to handle is not a reflection of what I'm capable of. I knew I was getting the pool from day one. And of course, now I live in the house, have the pool. But I had to remind myself as well, I have to give grace because the decisions I make, I can't expect other people to take those same decisions in their life. Certain things I spend money on. I recently made an investment in some personal mentorship. Didn't even tell my certain family members because of course they would say, oh my God, I would never spend money on that. Why wouldn't you put money on this, this, and this instead? But I believe that the resources that are going to flow in for me are unlimited. I can put money towards multiple things. And I know that investment is going to 10x for me because I'm investing in myself, in that education. I think you will never, ever go wrong when you invest in yourself. That's been my philosophy. But yeah, I think being okay, giving kindness and grace to close friends and family who don't possess the same mindset, knowing that the advice they're giving me is out of love, but I have to remember it's a reflection of their consciousness and their beliefs, and I don't have their same beliefs. I've chosen to have this insane, ungodly belief in myself that I can do anything. And if they're just not on that level, that is okay, and I can still love them. And like you said, learning to not change people. There's certain people in my family who I want to just sit down with every day and say, listen here, you have every capability to create a beautiful life. You're going to stop all this negativity today, but sometimes they don't want to hear it. They're going through an emotional time. You got to be really careful about how you put that onto people. And I also never want to come off as, oh, I've attained success now, so I know it all and just copy what I did, because the journey is different for everyone. But it is kind of it brings up some resistance because you want to help, especially when you've seen that it's worked in your own life. Yes. I have multiple family members where I just want to give them like a full lesson on what to do. Not that I know everything, but to help. But then you have to like have those boundaries. Like, have you experienced that?
For sure.
Yeah.
And then it always comes back to what we always hear is like, just leading by example. At the end of the day, just focusing on yourself, and then naturally they kind of learn more when they just watch you do it anyways.
From the example.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's true. When you have to like try, you can give your love and help and try, but you can't at the end of the day.
Can't force it on anyone. Yeah.
Well, it was so nice chatting with you.
Of course, I love
So
this.
tell everyone where they can find you on social media.
Yes. So my Instagram, just Jordan Cheyenne Official. That's where everything is. And then I actually have an event coming up in October in Temecula.
Cool. Amazing.
Yeah. So it's going to be a 2-day event all about rewiring the brain and cultivating a new identity. So for anyone who wants to attain wealth, success, confidence, there are so many business events, right? And events focused that are very masculine focused on business strategy, Facebook ads. I never came across an event where mindset was the entire event. Usually people sprinkle it in here and there. So I've created an event that's all about mindset strategy, personal growth, development, identity framework for 2 whole days, live in person. So it's going to be really cool bringing my teachings just to people in person. That's the main thing I'm focused on. Yeah.
That's amazing. Thank you
thank
so
you.
much. You're so inspiring and impactful, and I can see so many people resonating with this.
Oh,
I
thank you for
appreciate you
having
being
me.
here.
Of course.
I will see you next week on Wednesdays, and you can find me on social media, Billion Dollar Babie with an IE on baby, and Tara Electra on all other platforms. I'll see you next week.